It's easy to spot the parallels between the creation of Frankenstein's monster and the release of Zack Snyder's Justice League. Neither should naturally exist, let alone bear something resembling a pulse, and that they do is a feat unto themselves. But despite their achievements in the face of adversity, they are monstrous nonetheless. The resulting creature is a hideous shamble of spare parts scavenged from a variety of sources, a torso from Marvel's The Avengers, limbs from Fox's X-Men, cobbled to a head from the Warner Brothers themselves, all brought screaming to life in a storm of oppressive noise by proclaimed visionary talents who were quick to prove they could, without ever asking if they should. Justice League picks up where the overwhelmingly glum Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice left off. Superman is dead, and with his absence felt across the cosmos, an ill-defined threat looms large over Earth's horizon. Steppenwolf, a villain with the aesthetic of a rejected extra from the hard drive of Jack the Giant Slayer, is wreaking havoc and destruction across the world in search of Infinity Stones, mother boxes, so that he may use them to conquer Earth somehow. Acknowledging they're out of their depth against such a formidable foe, it's left to Batman and Wonder Woman to assemble a team of superheroes to confront the alien monster and save the world. The road to Justice League is one that has been plagued with bumps, scrapes and crashes, with writers and directors swapping places behind the wheel of what appears to be cinema's most unreliable car. The Batman and Robin reliant, perhaps. Following the critical backlash to the previous film in the DC Cinematic Universe, Warner Brothers demanded Zack Snyder's creative team spend less time exploring moody gravitas and instead inject the series with a boost of fun. Unfortunately, their plans did not come to fruition, and midway through production, a series of expensive reshoots were scheduled, scripted and directed due to tragic circumstances by superhero fanboy Joss Whedon. It's clear the creative team are chasing the success of Wonder Woman, but what we're left with is a film that more closely resembles Suicide Squad in its clear whiplashing between tone and vision, albeit with a handful of notably positive elements. It's long been an issue for DC that Warner Brothers have put the cart before the horse, and in rushing to the Justice League have barely laid the foundations for their cinematic universe, and as a result, the characters suffer. Even their best moments, such as The Flash meeting his incarcerated father, or a moment shared between both him and Cyborg in which they talk about being the monsters or mistakes of the group, are marred by the feeling that these beats would have been better served had the characters been previously established. As a result, the Justice League is tasked with the heavy lifting of both attempting to unify these characters within one coherent universe, whilst simultaneously establishing several of the characters and their own individual worlds. Fortunately, the characters largely work, their interactions are enjoyable and there's a palpable chemistry between many of the actors, but this comes at the expense of character development, which is surely being saved for their solo outings. Many of these characters are constantly hitting the one note, and though it's often a good note, it's one that grows tiresome to hear. It's no surprise that the one character with something resembling an arc, as the Flash grows from a boy out of his depth in a world of gods and monsters to a legitimate superhero, is Justice League's greatest weapon against its otherwise utterly mediocre storytelling and half-assed world building. As a result of the self-imposed burdens in story and character the film has taken on, many key story moments and actors are criminally wasted in order to rush through these establishing beats. And to add insult to injury, the film takes on more than it needs to, as other elements could have been saved for future installments. Most notably the great J.K. Simmons as James Gordon, who is left to establish his incarnation by standing about, spouting only a handful of lines. Even the saving the world plot has been marginalised to the point of obscurity within the labyrinthine network of reshoots and shifting priorities. The main villains are the worst examples of anonymous CGI cannon fodder, led by a horn-clad monument that utters nonsensical cliché dialogue in what feels like cutscenes from another story entirely. Such is the disconnect that our heroes discuss the invasion freely in broad daylight with no visible threat in sight. Here, Snyder further misinterprets the criticism of his destruction porn from earlier films by setting most of the climax in an abandoned Russian nuclear plant, with just a single family reacting as reference. It's here that the film feels strangely small, when it should be expansive. There's a lot of rebooting on display here, with grand multiple film story arcs being abandoned midway through. It's as if the filmmakers know that the storyline established is already a dying carcass, but lack the panache to break free from it smoothly. Zack Snyder's Justice League is a film we will never see, as it was likely never shot or left long behind in the reshoot schedule. In many ways, Justice League is a more frustrating cinematic experience than Batman v Superman, though Snyder's film is a clear step above his previous effort, though still far from the quality of both Wonder Woman and even Man of Steel. The fact that there are moments that work make the moments that don't all the more maddening. These are characters I want to see, portrayed by several actors I appreciate, but ultimately marred by an unengaging story and a world that's several shades of ugly. I was often taken aback by how cheap this $300 million production looked, with several clearly reshot interactions displaying all the visual flourish of a scene from Tommy Wiseau's The Room. In fact, the majority of reshot material is entirely apparent, whether it's voice dubbing reshaping the narrative or a series of jarring insert shots or clearly unfinished CGI work, it's all very noticeable. I'm inclined to believe that Superman is still dead given Henry Cavill's uncanny valley aesthetic, recalling Peter Cushing's appearance in Rogue One, a result of hasty visual effects work to remove his moustache grown for his upcoming role in the next Mission Impossible film. Batman v Superman at least looked its budget, whereas Justice League barely looks half of what was spent. Ultimately, Justice League is neither bad enough to warrant scorn or dissection, nor good enough to warrant any further discussion. However, Snyder's greatest achievement is that though I will never watch the mediocre Justice League again, at least not in its current incarnation, I am at least half interested in the solo efforts of several of its characters, and that I imagine is perhaps just enough for Warner Bros. And I award Justice League 2 out of 5 stars.
Oh, awesome! That's a bad signal, that's your... Oh, sorry. That's your signal, that means we have to go now.
Yeah, that's what that means.
It's so cool.
And that is all from me, Gareth Green, with my latest review. Remember to subscribe to Popcorn Digest for up-to-date reviews, interviews and much more, and follow us on our social media pages found at the links below. I'll be back soon, but until then, thank you for listening.